An entitled customer claims that I'm trying to poison his food after an honest mistake at the restaurant I work at. But as a result of his sudden outburst, all the tables around him decided to get some revenge and absolutely humiliate him in the process. Here's what happened. So I worked in a steak and seafood restaurant while I was in college. It was a great little place with a perfect schedule for students, no lunches, and closed on Sundays. Even better, the food was excellent, and the staff was one of the best in town. We were always busy, which made for a nice payday for the waiters. I had a good group of regulars and I did really well. Naturally, that doesn't mean that it was all roses and sunshine. While 99% of the customers were great and easy to take care of, there's always that 1% that seemed to spoil the bunch. Anyways, on the night in question, I had opened the restaurant, which meant I also got one of the best sections in the place. 5 tables, 3 4-tops, and 2 2-tops. My first table of the night is the primary focus of our story. They were an elderly couple. She was as sweet as my grandmother, so let's call her Grandma. And of course, we'll call the gentleman the grumpy old man of the story. And let me tell you, he was not in the best mood, but wasn't being rude as of yet. They ordered drinks from the bar, which is usually a good sign. When I returned with their drinks, they were ready to order their entrees, which is perfect. Easy peasy. A nice simple start to a weekend night. Now, I need to explain something about the restaurant real quick. The cook line is exposed to the restaurant, which is kind of cool. The prep area in the back has the dish station, the dry storage, the cooler, and the freezer, plus a small office for the owner and the chef. Tucked in a corner is a table about 32 inches square, where all food prep is done. Like I said, we're a steak and seafood restaurant. We are very proud that our fish is as fresh as you can get, and the cooks do an excellent job of preparing it. This little table is where all the steaks are cut. The desserts are mixed and prepped for baking or freezing in case of ice cream pies or something like that, as well as where the fish is scaled and portioned. Obviously, extreme care is taken to keep this area clean, but sometimes things happen, and that's about where our story begins. One of our more popular seafood entrees is the Bay of Scallops, small dishes of super rich goodness floating in drawn butter and appropriate seasoning. And yes, they are portioned and prepped on that small little table where the fish is scaled and portioned. I'm thinking you can guess where this is going. Yep, the angry old man ordered the scallops, and I made sure to inform him what an excellent choice he had made. I don't remember what Grandma ordered, but it's not really pertinent. I had delivered their food and was getting waters for the 2 new tables in my section when I heard this guy's voice all of a sudden. He called for me by saying, "Boy," which is kind of rude because I always introduce myself when I approach a table, and I'm 6'3", not exactly a boy, but whatever. I walk over and say, "Yes, sir, can I get you something?" The entitled customer says, "What the heck is this on my food?" He points at what appears to be a small piece of chewed plastic. On his plate next to the dish the scallops came in. I look at him and I say, "I am so sorry, sir. Let me take care of that and I'll get you a new order of scallops as quickly as I can." I took his plate over and I went to go get a new order, making sure to let the owner and the chef know exactly what happened. A quick discussion ensues, and naturally, the entitled customer meal is comped. I stop at the waiter station on the way back to my section to get waters for the 2 additional new tables in my section, dropping them off before going back to the entitled customer just to let him know that it would be a few minutes, as well as apologizing and letting him know that it was a fish scale and that with us being a seafood restaurant, serving fish as fresh as we can get it, sometimes things happen. I also let him know that his meal was taken care of. What followed was a diatribe, a lecture, a rant, a tirade that any politician would be proud of. This entitled customer accused me and the restaurant of trying to poison him. He threatened to contact the health department and sue us. He even questioned my intelligence and my capacity to do my job in the first place. And he wasn't doing it quietly. When I had the chance, I would apologize again and reassure him that it was an anomaly, that it wouldn't happen again, and that the owner of the restaurant was paying for his meal. I even threw in a piece of cheesecake on my own just to make him happy. One of the other servers brought over his new order of scallops, and I purposefully waited while he searched for anything suspicious in his meal. He finally let out a frustrated sigh and dismissed me with a wave of his hand. I was now seriously in the weeds and went to my 4 other tables, all of whom had just witnessed what I had been through, and got their drink orders and told them I'd be right back to take their food orders. Each in turn, they all told me not to worry about it. They completely understood. What happened next is proof that no matter what, there is hope for humanity. I drop off all the drinks and start with the first table to arrive. Pretty standard orders until I get to the last person, which is the guy that is getting the check. He says, "You know, I've heard heard that you have the best scallops in the state. I love scallops." And his delivery of saying that was getting a little over the top. He then continued by saying, "The only thing is, I like a little more body in my meals. Can you do me a favor and see if you can find any fish scales in the back and maybe add a few of them to my order? You know, make them a little more chewy." I looked at him with a subtle smile on my face, knowing that this entitled customer was hearing everything, and I responded by saying, "Yes, sir, I'll see what I can do." I went along to my second table, and again the last guy went to order. He said, "Hey, I heard that other guy order. Do you think I could get some of those scallops with some extra fish scales as well?" My smile was getting even bigger, and this repeated to my third table and to my fourth. All 4 tables ordered scallops and asked loudly for fish scales. It took everything I had not to burst out laughing. I made sure to stop by the entitled customer's table to check on him and grandma to see if they needed anything else. This time the grandma answered by saying, "Just 2 cups of coffee." I responded by saying, "Yes, ma'am, and I'll be sure to bring you your cheesecake too." I picked up their plates and glanced at the entitled old man, who somehow looked 6 inches shorter than he was when he first came in. He wouldn't even look at me. I turned in my new orders and told the owners what had happened. He didn't even try to not laugh, which makes sense since this is his restaurant. I took the entitled customer and grandma their coffee, as well as the cheesecake and their check. They managed to slip out while I was taking care of the rest of the section. When I picked up the check, the entitled old man actually left me enough cash for the bill and a $50 tip. And as a note, with the pricing at the restaurant at the time, the entitled customer's entree and coffee would have been less than $20. So as apologies go, I'll happily take the cash and this amazing story every single time. What a fantastic ending to this story. And it's really cool the way the other tables basically banded together and said, "No, you're not going to get treated like that." Because honestly, this customer was just being obnoxious. The fact that he was going to say, "Oh, I'm going to sue you. Oh, I'm going to call the health inspector," with the blatant assumption that, yeah, they're trying to food poison you, buddy. Like, what a joke. Get a grip. But I really do love that everybody else around that order stepped in and said, "You know what? Let's make this guy look like an idiot." So hopefully the next time this entitled customer goes into a restaurant, they're able to learn some kind of manners, because the way they acted was absolutely ridiculous. And it's so nice to see that they got put in their place. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Today I messed up by accidentally playing the Benny Hill song at another person's funeral, and now I feel like we've ruined our chances at getting to know our neighbors. Here's what happened. So my neighbor just passed away suddenly a few days ago. We weren't close with her. I mean, we just moved into this neighborhood a little less than a year ago, but she really liked our daughter and would always bring her coloring books, treats, and other sort of things from the place she would volunteer at, and she would occasionally give us tips about our garden, which was mostly just to get rid of our trees because the fruits would fall off into her entryway. We've met her daughter as well, and her daughter's kids and everything. The kids are in their 20s now, so somehow we were invited to this funeral, which was quite touching. We are one of 3 other young families that live here, whereas the other people have been living here since the 50s, so everyone knew her very well. We never really had the opportunity to meet the other people in the neighborhood for some reason, so it was nice to be able to do that, albeit for this weird setting. Either way, our daughter's at this stage in her life now where she's trying to be an independent toddler, and she refuses to listen and takes her own sweet time with things. I've tried all sorts of things to make the process smoother, but the one trick I like to use when time is tight is to play the Benny Hill theme music on my phone and say to her, "Can you get this task done before the song ends?" And it suddenly becomes fun and the task gets done in seconds. Now today, she was refusing to put her coat on, and it's in the negatives outside, so we were starting to run late to the funeral, and I resorted to the Benny Hill trick. It worked like a charm. We walk over to the church and got to the funeral just in time. It was all going smoothly until the casket was actually going into the ground. My daughter wanted me to hold her because she was cold and because she wanted to see what was happening, so I picked her up, but I think that movement triggered some accelerometer on my phone, and somehow, you guessed it, I managed to hit play with my thigh through my pockets, which I'm honestly still trying to figure out. Either way, I don't know how this happened, but suddenly in this quiet, somber moment, the Benny Hill song starts blasting from my pockets at full blast. As we watch the casket being lowered into the ground, all my neighbors just look at me scathing and shaking their heads in disgust. I'm trying to get my phone out of my pocket, but under the layers and my frozen fingers and my daughter now being upset that I put her on the ground, a meltdown was occurring and I just couldn't get to it fast enough. So it honestly did take a while. I feel so awful about ruining that moment for her family. family, but now I also don't think the neighbors like us very much anymore. So now we honestly don't know what to do, and we really feel like we messed up big time. I wouldn't be so hard on yourself, to be completely honest. I mean, everybody there is super old, so of course they're gonna be unhappy about the smallest detail going wrong, but like seriously, it was a mistake. It wasn't something you did intentionally, and if anything, your phone just kind of went off. Like, that happens sometimes. Sure, the timing is really weird, and the song itself is kind of funny, but seriously, it was an accident. It's not like you went to that funeral and decided, okay, here's my chance. I'm gonna ruin this funeral for everybody involved. No, you got a kid in your arms, you're trying to get your phone. It was all just an honest mistake. So I would not beat yourself up over this. It was not something you did on purpose, and trust me, it seriously could have been a lot worse than the Benny Hill music. My boyfriend that I've been dating doesn't seem to understand my emotions, and doesn't seem to understand where I'm coming from most of the time, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. So my boyfriend of 3 months is very good at what he does. He fixes very complex logical engineering problems for a company like NASA. He works in a big city 6 hours away at the moment, all the way up until December for a job. He is sweet to me by buying me presents, visiting me unexpectedly, taking notice of everything I say, and putting in the effort. But I'm doubting if he is kind, because if it doesn't make any sense to him, he won't do it, period. To be fair, we are very stubborn people, and our country is notorious for it. But still, sometimes it makes me wonder. We have had many discussions, and I admire his perspective and knowledge, but he often forgets it isn't about being right, but to bond with me and grow closer to each other while considering each other's feelings. This discussion was about the concept of being smart, such as, is it smart if you're in school, or if you're fact smart, or smart in the sense of putting in your skills to be happy, and always try to see a positive in a negative situation, stuff like that. In our country, you're smart if you went to university, and in contrast, if you did trades, you're dumb. It's really that simple. Now for context, he went to university and I did trades. I am doing university now, but I still get a lot of age comments on a regular basis. He thinks that being smart is fact-based, and your ability to learn quickly, just like in university. This is what makes you a smart person. But I strongly disagree, but I also see this might be the ultimate argument where we differ on a core base. He needs logic in life to feel good, where I need to feel understood about my feelings to feel good. I was called dumb my entire life and have had many very difficult trauma situations, whereas he had a perfect family according to the standards of our country. He never lost someone or had to fight for anything emotionally in his life, so he has a very different view on life when compared to me. It makes me feel very distant from him because he can't see this and he can't think about what I need for a second instead of just pushing his logic on me. I get this is who he is, but I believe a person can grow more understanding in this social skill. It's not like he doesn't see it, and he tries like he did with other small things that I pointed out, especially when it comes to our relationship. He admitted he finds empathy difficult. When he was younger, he was diagnosed with Asperger's, but I don't want to judge based off of just that. He had grown a lot since then, and I'm his first girlfriend, so I want to help him understand me, but I don't know how to without coming over as manipulative or dominant. So things are really tricky, and I honestly don't know what to do. It really does not seem like your boyfriend is very logical. It sounds like a lot of his feelings really do dictate what he does, and the fact that he's ignoring how you feel and kind of pushing that to the side, in my opinion, is just really rude, and I think he really needs to work on that. I mean, if he is diagnosed with Asperger's, then maybe he needs just a few more hints when it comes to what is and is not appropriate to say, as well as social cues that you really do rely on, and stuff that you would really want to articulate to him. So hopefully this works out for you, because it definitely sounds like a rocky start to the relationship, but hopefully eventually you can see eye to eye and have some kind of stability between the two of you. My boyfriend lied to me about something involving his ex, and when I tried to confront him about it, he deleted the evidence and tried to gaslight me into believing that none of it was true, and I'm honestly so heartbroken, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Yesterday, my boyfriend by the name of Jake, that's not his real name, as well as myself, ended up having a conversation about how he still talks to his ex on a semi-regular basis. I told him I didn't really care, but that I felt misled because previously he claimed they would do that every now and then. I took that as every few months, but lately I've noticed it's been more like every week or so for the last month or two. Now, I thought that would be that until he brought up that she had asked him to hang out again. I questioned what Jake's response to that was, and he originally claimed that he told her neither of us would be comfortable with it, but based off of what her reaction was, that didn't add up. Throughout the whole thing, I just had this nagging feeling that I didn't know the whole story. story. So to keep it short, eventually Jake's story began to unravel. At one point, he offered to show me the messages to ease my mind. When he thought I was distracted, he then deleted the incriminating message in question. I called him out and he initially denied it, even going as far as to try and gaslight me by saying, "It doesn't matter what I say, you won't believe me, you don't trust me." He wound up changing his story and keeping up the lie several times before he finally admitted that he told her he would be fine with hanging out, but knew that I wouldn't be, even though he said that he didn't want to hang out with her at all and never brought it up with me because he knew it wouldn't happen. Jake's rationale was that he didn't want to argue with her, so he said sure, and that he didn't want to upset me, thus the lying. This has been a problem since we started dating a year ago. Jake has trouble setting boundaries and trouble saying no when he should. I would have been more than understanding if he had just been open with me from the beginning, but instead he chose to lie. He chose to hide things, as well as gaslight me in addition to catering to his ex's feelings. I am not sure where to go from here and how to move on from this. I don't want to leave him. Our relationship is great aside from a few occurrences like this, and I love him very much. He has since apologized and said he'll do anything he can to make it up to me and understands that what he did was wrong, but I can't pretend it didn't make me lose some trust in him. What should I do? It sounds like Jake is a massive coward. Right when he's cornered and you basically have him exactly where you want him, not in a malicious way, but to try and uncover the truth, he not only deletes the evidence, but he also gaslights you and makes it seem like, oh, no matter what I show you, it will never be enough. Like your boyfriend is straight up lying to you. He only said that he wants to hang out with his ex so he can try and play both sides of the field, in my opinion. He wants to have something entertained with his ex-girlfriend while also keeping you happy and in the dark. And if you notice, it's only when you try to open up Pandora's box that he got aggressive and decided to start lying and decided to start trying to deceive you. And that's not fair for you in the slightest. I mean, if you catch him talking to his ex, he's gonna lie and say it was nothing because he doesn't want you to be upset. And he probably most likely does this to other people in his life. He most likely, in my opinion, just says whatever he needs to say to try and make sure the people around him are happy. So I really think this is really messed up. This is not okay with the way he's acting. And if I was in your shoes, I would feel like my trust was completely broken in him. And clearly I just can't trust him because he's just gonna try and destroy the evidence. Like, that is super sketchy in my opinion. So hopefully with whatever you do, it all works out because your boyfriend is being super shady and you deserve way better than this in a relationship. My cousin doesn't seem to listen, that a friend of mine is not a good person and she really should not be around him, but she isn't listening and I honestly don't know what to do. So for a little backstory, my cousin has been living with my family for the past year. She and her brother grew up in an awful household, and as a result, they were taken and placed into foster care in September 2021. My aunt and uncle were awful to them and only got caught when my brother told his teacher. We barely saw them since they lived across the US from us and had no idea they were even in foster care until the agency called my dad. My parents were awarded custody of them, and it's been a difficult time for them to adjust to their new life, but they are finally beginning to settle in. My cousin instantly became best friends with my sister, who's the same age as her, and she is even beginning to feel comfortable hanging out with me. A couple of weeks ago, she told me she has been texting my friend, and they have been starting to hang out. I say the word friend, but he is more of that person of the group that the friends tolerate, but is not actually a part of the group. He is not a good person. He is loud, rude to everyone, and just a nasty person in general. He has an extremely short temper, and if anyone from my class ends up in jail, it is most likely going to be him. We only put up with him because he is my best friend's twin brother. They are completely different people though. His brother has been spoiled rotten and gets handed down everything, while my best friend barely gets noticed by their parents, so it's not shocking to see their differences. Despite his numerous shortcomings, he is great at manipulation and sweet-talking people into getting what he wants. He met my cousin at a school dance last semester and has been texting her nonstop. My cousin is very naive and told my sister and I that she is really interested in him. My sister finds my friend disgusting and gave her 20 reasons why she would not be talking to him, but she brushed her off. My best friend and I told her all the reasons I mentioned above, but she told us that we do not know him like she does. I have grown up with the guy. I know exactly how he treats people. I let it go for a while, but a moment last week alerted me. She came home almost in tears, and my sister walked into my room and told me that my friend had yelled at her after school because she was not responding to his messages. I already don't like the idea IDEA of a senior talking to a sophomore, but this was the last straw. The next day, I told him to stay away from her, but he responded by telling me to stay out of his business and to have my cousin stop communicating with him. I told my cousin my concerns, but she doesn't understand why I am so concerned. I talked to my mom about it, but she hasn't been able to get through to her either. She says it's just a phase, and she will get over him when he graduates in May. I don't know what to do. She has been taken advantage of her whole life by terrible people, and I am afraid she is going to be seriously hurt by this guy or someone similar in the future. What should I do? I think the best thing you can do is just be there for her. Obviously, you can't make her stop talking to this guy, but you also don't have to stand by idly while she basically ruins her life by dealing with this guy. From what you've described, he sounds absolutely awful, and I don't blame you for trying to protect your cousin. Unfortunately though, sometimes people have to learn the hard way that their decisions to be around certain types of people really will result in some bad consequences. And that's not your fault. That literally is not your fault in the slightest. And if anything, it will be a hard lesson for her to learn if she seriously doesn't learn to listen to you. But hopefully for the sake of your cousin, she wakes up and sees exactly what this guy is. Because from the sounds of it, he is absolutely a jerk, and she would be so much better off being friends with literally anyone else. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.